happy Monday. Welcome to the Pitch Strike Chronicles. I am Uncle Taz. I'm here with Donald and Rob. And as the buses are on their way to Tampa, some have already arrived. There is still one question we need to know, and that is what went right and what went wrong this offseason. Because although the Yankees have made a lot of significant moves to improve this roster, improve areas of need, they are still heading down there with still a lot of question marks to go along with it. Mainly their infield alignment. We've been talking about it over and over again, and it seems that it's kind of, well, they just get it figured out already. But I want to start off the week on the positive, and that is, did they do enough to really better the rotation? And we've talked about that. I think the answer is yes. When you take out Nestor Cortez, who's a very serviceable Yankee, a fan favorite, really did nothing wrong to anybody, and you replace him with Max Fried, that is definitely a win for Cashman and the Yankees. So when you look overall at the rotation, I think that is where there are the least amount of question marks. Rob, is that a fair statement to make?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the strength of the team is the rotation right now. Garrett Cole is Garrett Cole. Even last year, we saw him when he finally got back to his old form. He was lights out in the playoffs. Max Fried's one of the better pitchers in baseball, let alone being one of the better maybe the best lefty, but he's certainly one of the better pitchers in the entire game. Rodon now comes your number 3, number 4. That's fine, and you have the Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil, and then Clark Schmidt, your number 5, is like a dream. So the rotation's absolutely stacked. They certainly upgraded it in the best way they could have by getting one of the top 2 pitchers in free agency, and there should be no question marks about it. As long as it's healthy, it's one of the best, if not the best, in the entire sport. The Dodgers are obviously loaded, and so is Seattle, but the Yankees are right there with one of the better rotations in the game. So that's one thing they always seem to do is put money into that rotation, and they could have done a lot worse than Max Fried, that's for sure. I'm very happy to have him, and I'm very excited to see him for the entire season and 8 years to come. See him pitching behind Garrett Cole for the next few years is going to be a lot of fun.
Donald, what do you think about the pivot on the rotation to solidify the start of the games?
Well, the best move was Williams. Ron Williams is the best move for me. I think that was the one A+ move. Excellent trades. Now we've got one of the best closers in baseball. I think that was the best move of them all. Followed by Max Fried. I think Max Fried was a really good move too. Now 8 years for a 31-year-old is the only issue there. He's had some arm injuries, but overall, I think the deal's good, and it's an awesome acquisition because the guy has legitimately been top 5 best pitchers in baseball since like 2021. So I think it was a good acquisition. Pretty happy with the starting rotation, but I think for me the best move was Williams.
Well, Williams was definitely a great move. When you're going from Clay Holmes as your closer to Devin Williams, that is an extreme upgrade. That's not even just an upgrade. We can actually relax at the end of the game, and especially that he also has. We have Weaver also at the back end of that rotation. I think that is probably one of the better 1-2 punches that we've had out of the bullpen in a long time. So no, definitely I would say Devin Williams. I'll agree with that. That is probably one of the better of the offseason moves. But there's a lot of players that we had the additions of Fried and Williams and Bellinger and Goldschmidt. To put out the ones that got the headlines. But is this all? Can we thank the fact that we did not get Soto to be able to really solidify some of the roster? And not to say that, believe me, Soto was a huge loss, but that it seems like the way I'm looking at it is that gave the Yankees a little more financial flexibility to really spread things out a little more and really nail down fundamental replacements on the roster.
It forced them to change their approach. Had they gotten Soto back, they probably still would have got Goldschmidt, or they maybe would have traded for Naylor because they were in on him. But they probably wouldn't have done much else. Like, you can still get Devin Williams, you can still get Fernando Cruz, and for that Trevino trade, but we wouldn't have Fried or Bellinger. And I think a lot of people would still make that trade because the rotation was already pretty good, even without Max Fried. Now it's just even better. The bullpen would still be exactly the same, whether we got Soto or not. I still think they make that Williams trade 10 times out of 10, and your rotation would be Cole, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt, Stroman, and there'd be no need to trade Marcus Stroman. And you'd have Juan Soto in the lineup instead of Cody Bellinger, which I think everybody would make that trade. Your defense would be worse, but your offense would be right where it was last year, maybe even better because Goldschmidt is an upgrade over what we had last year at first. So it just really forced them to go with a different approach, because had you gotten Soto back, your defensive alignment in the outfield would have been still pretty rough. Your infield will be better, but you also would have to worry. You still have the same questions about third base, and it forced him to go another direction. That's really it. It still doesn't make up for. We haven't made up for his bat, that's for sure, but it did force him to finally reconsider what they were last year fundamentally and maybe make those changes. So I guess it's a good thing, but yeah, there's really, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but all it did was just force them to change the approach because they wanted him back badly. And $47 million a year tells you that they wanted the dude back, and they probably wouldn't have changed much else if they brought him back. But yeah, it just caused them to go with a more defensive approach. Run prevention is the way they're putting it, and that's really, when they lost Soto, that's the kind of pivot they made.
Donald, what do you think about how they were able? Was it a success? Was it a successful pivot in your opinion? After missing out on Soto,
We'll have to wait and see. We don't know. So, if you guys listen to Joel Sherman, his podcast on the New York Post, he said that every single executive he's spoken to around the league, of all 100% universally, have said that the Yankees have had a very good offseason. They've all been happy with the offseason. Every single one. Agents, executives, all said that the Yankees have had a good offseason. So there's that. That's obviously a pretty decent endorsement right there, that the Yankees have had a decent pivot. I liked his he used the term, Soto's $1 and the Yankees have gone with 4 quarters, if you know what I mean. Like, they've decided to fill it up in that way, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you prefer, 4 quarters or $1? And that's kind of the way that the Yankees have pivoted. Now, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. I mean, it's all well and good us talking about it now, but we have to see how it plays out on the field. I don't think enough has been said about how mediocre our lineup looks. I have to be honest. I think 2/3 of our lineup is a huge, gigantic question mark. And that has to play out. I don't feel very good about our lineup, but I feel pretty good about our pitching, and the defense looks really good. So we'll have to see how it plays out. So if I was, to answer your question, do I think that they've had a good pivot from Soto? Yeah, to an extent. But also, if you look at it, what have the Yankees really done that they wouldn't have done with Soto? And that's the thing, right? So, I mean, they would have still made, as Ro points out, they still would have made the Williams trade because it was a wash financially with Nestor Cortez, the money-wise. So that would have still happened, and that was still their best move anyway. Okay, Max Fried wouldn't have happened, but then you probably could have pivoted to like Flaherty, who just signed for a very, very reasonable contract. You know what I'm saying? So what moves would they have made? otherwise. So it's really just Max Fried and maybe Cody Bellinger. But, Aaron Judge was campaigning for Cody Bellinger, so maybe the Yankees would have made the Bellinger deal anyway. So what deal would it really be? What's the big difference? So I'm not quite sure. I don't know if it was that gigantic a pivot if you look at it, because we still haven't gotten a third baseman. You know what I'm saying? We still haven't got a third baseman. It took us until now to get even a cheap lefty reliever. So it's not like the Yankees have really gone a huge philosophy change. So I don't want to overrate that. I think that they've done a little bit, but they haven't done anything massive. And I think that's probably why I'm a little bit. I would say I still think it's an okay offseason, but I don't think it's nearly as exciting as people are making out. I think it's fine. I think they've done okay, but if you look at the names that have been available and the Yankees passed on them all, makes it less impressive. I mean, look at the names that they have passed on, and all of them are fundamentally better than the people that they brought in, apart from Max Fried. So it's an okay offseason, but I'm not going to overrate it.
Right? Had they gotten Christian Walker and Cody Bellinger, then that would be like,
I would have
okay,
loved that.
that's an improvement, right? That's significant upgrades to at least the defense, and you can actually make the argument that Bellinger and Walker could get you close to Soto's offensive production. You really can't say that about Goldschmidt. So I think the fact that they went with the cheaper 1-year route of a first baseman and never addressed third base, that's to me why I still think it's a good offseason. It's still very much incomplete because, let's face it, they're going to go with the rotation they're going to go with the battle for third base. Now, I can't be too mad about it because in my offseason plans, I didn't get a third baseman. I said go open competition, but I didn't include DJ LeMahieu. The Yankees are still trying to convince the world that DJ LeMahieu is a serviceable player, and it's to what it seems like it's his job to lose, and that's what I don't like. Had he been 2023 DJ last year, then maybe a platoon would be okay, but I don't. They're going with I think an article came out just earlier today. Like they're probably going to go with the battle for third base between Cabrera, Peraza, DJ, and Vivas. So unless they make a move in the next 24 hours, which I don't see happening. So they never address third base. That's why even though I like this offseason, I still give it an incomplete because I can be okay with Goldschmidt. I like the Bellinger trade. I love the Fried signing. I love the Williams trade. I like the Cruz trade. But who's your third baseman? And that's still a question that we've been asking now for well over 2 months. We've been asking this question. Who's our third baseman going to be? And no backup catcher, you're right, Raziel. So they haven't really filled. It's still an incomplete offseason, and we're a day away from pitchers and catchers. It just feels like there were moves out there. There are still players out there that they could add. One of the best players in the entire free agent market is still sitting there, and the Yankees just seem to have no interest in them. And that to me is just like it kind of as a fan I feel like let down because you did tell us, hey, we can get whoever we want. Oh, stay tuned, we're not done yet. And then you're just like, yeah, well, we are done. But they do this to us every year, so it's like, can you stop opening your mouths because you're giving us as fans this false sense of like, oh, they're gonna go get this player. Yeah, Stroman's still here. I feel bad for him because now he's got to report to camp with a team that's actively trying to trade him, not knowing where he's going to be playing in a couple of weeks, if he's going to be a Yankee or not. And that sucks for the guys. So I just feel like while the additions have been fine, I'm fine with every move they've made. It's the ones they didn't make that are making me feel this offseason is very incomplete.
That's it. That's the way I break it down. It's like I can make a case for every one of the signings. Less so Goldschmidt, but even still, you can still make the argument. But by and large, you can make a case for every single one of the acquisitions. But I don't have a case that could possibly be made for why we didn't address third base. Like it's absolutely nigh on criminal that we don't have a third baseman, even another third base option at this point. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with the offseason that I've had is although they've made moves that have got me excited of the improvements that we've made, they still have not gone that extra mile to just solidify it all and bring it all together. We worked on the rotation, the bullpen, the defense. They did everything possible that we could have asked for except solidify the lineup. And that I think that's where everything is starting to fall apart. As far as getting overly excited, I'm excited that baseball season is right around the corner, but it's hard to jump up and down for joy the way we normally do when there is still sitting here, you know, on February 10th, not knowing who our third baseman is. Not even we don't even have an idea of who has to be beat out for third base. It can't be DJ. If they say these players have to outplay DJ, I could probably win the third base job. I mean, that's just how bad that situation is, and they can't. I'd rather them say, look, Peraza's gonna, we're leaning towards Peraza to be our third baseman, but we're gonna see how spring training plays out. I would feel a lot better about that than them saying these players have to compete against DJ.
The only thing I'll pick that point upon is that you said that they've done everything possible except third base, but they haven't really, because they haven't really addressed the offense. I mean, I'm sorry, Goldschmidt coming off and like his worst career year, and Bellinger coming off a horrible year, isn't really addressing the offense. So I don't really.
That's what I said. The lineup is still a little lackluster.
Yeah, no, but you said that they've done everything possible except third base, but they haven't really, because I don't think that the moves they've done really address the offense that we're missing with Juan Soto being gone. I know we're not supposed to mention his name, but I mean, you kind of have to, because he's a guy that carried, along with Stanton, carried them to the World Series. So how are you going to address the skill set that you lost? All right, the Yankees have addressed the defense, but have they addressed the on-base percentage of almost like 450 that we're missing? You get like a 420 on-base percentage. I mean, you needed to acquire someone that can get on base, but they haven't done that. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you're losing that amount of on-base percentage, and then instead you've gone with Cody Bellinger, who's been kind of struggling to get on base for a while since his MVP season, and Goldschmidt, who's striking out, I think he struck out like 170 times last year and only had 47 walks last year. So there's not a lot of walks in that lineup, because now you've lost it all with Soto gone. So the Yankees haven't really addressed that. So I'm not saying that you cannot replace Soto, but what I'm saying is you needed to replace the skill set. His skill set was on-base percentage, walks, quality at bats, home runs, and RBIs. And the Yankees have addressed a grand total of 0 of those skills. 0. And that's why I'm not that excited about the lineup. You didn't bring in any on-base percentage. You didn't really bring much power in there. And you didn't really bring in much slug, OPS, all that stuff. You brought in some average league hitters at this stage of their careers. So, I mean, unless they have a huge shock year, which I hope they do. But if you look at their trends, they're not trending towards that. So I'm only going with what I've seen. So, I mean, there's still a chance. Hey, you never know. Baseball's a funny thing. So maybe Goldschmidt does turn back the clock, and maybe Bellinger does turn back the clock. But, I mean, if you look at the trends and the statistics, it's not trending that way. So wouldn't you have wanted to have gone with a more sure bet, like a Christian Walker, a Pete Alonso, a Naylor, an actual sure bet that they're going to give you the OPS and the RBIs and the on-base percentage and the home runs that you're missing? But they haven't addressed that. So I'm not actually that high on this offseason the more I think about it.
Yeah, those are definitely fair points, because even if you look at all we right now have is projections. We don't know what the season's going to shake out, but the Yankees projections wise, they only have like 3 guys that are expected to go over 320 on base. obviously Judge is going to be like a 390 type of guy like that because no one's going to pitch to the dude if the rest of this lineup's not hitting. And then you look at they're projecting Dominguez to have a 326, this is steamer, and they think Goldschmidt's actually going to have a pretty solid year. Him and Bellinger, they should benefit from Yankee Stadium. Doesn't mean they're going to turn back the clock by any means, but you're right. There's still a lot of uncertainty here because what happens if when Stanton does go down? He's going to miss time. It happens every year. I wish it didn't happen, but when Stanton goes down, we see that every year when he gets hurt, the Yankees start to lose. Even if when he comes back, he doesn't have an impact, the Yankees start to play better when he is in the lineup. So
that's true.
Who's replacing Giancarlo Stanton? You really need Bellinger to turn back the clock. You need Goldschmidt to turn back the clock. Wells and Volpe have to step up. I think someone just commented that a little bit ago. Wells and Volpe have to step up, especially Volpe. He has to be better. Anthony Volpe, this is a make-or-break year for the kid, and we know Aaron Judge is going to be Aaron Judge, but is he going to hit 58 again? No. Is he going to hit? He probably won't. He might be more like 2021 Judge that hit like 39, 40 home runs, which is still really good numbers, but you can't put all that on Aaron Judge's shoulders because if you expect him to hit 60 again, you're already setting yourself up for disappointment. I think Jazz will be fine because he was really good in the second half for us, and that's a guy that I think is going to have a big year, but there's a lot of uncertainty here. So to go in-house at third base is fine if you had a better platoon option than DJ. Like I like Peraza, but the Yankees don't. Cabrera's on an everyday player. So if you got Bregman today, then I wouldn't really have many question marks. Like at full strength, because all we have to go by is what's on paper, I think the top 8 of our lineup is good, not great. It's not as good as it was with Soto. It might be a more rounded lineup, but if you add one more consistent bat, like even if it's a league average bat, like obviously Bregman's above league average, Arenado was right around league average, slightly above, that makes the lineup a hell of a lot more better, and I feel a lot more comfortable with that team, with that lineup, that defense, that pitching, can go out there and win a bunch of games, get back to the World Series, but you have a black hole at the bottom of that order because you don't know what Dominguez is going to be. We don't know if Volpe's going to step up. And we don't really have a third base option that we can say that's the guy that's going to go out there and get the big hit at the bottom of the order. So it's going to come down to the big guys, again, like Judge and Stanton. We need Jazz to be good. We need Bellinger. We need Goldschmidt. But it's a bat short, and we've been saying this for months. It is a bat short, and TC, you're absolutely right. The bench, that's why I don't want Cabrera starting, because I think Cabrera as a utility guy to come around and play off the bench makes the bench stronger. I think even DJ on the bench makes the bench somewhat stronger. But Grisham, he does have some pop, so there's that. But they're one bat short, and they've been one bat short for a couple of months now because the last significant move they made was Goldschmidt, and that was in December. They've been one bat short for 2 months, and they've had 2 months to go out there and find a third baseman, and the best one available is still fucking sitting there, and it's February 10th, and you're like, nah, we're good. I don't get it. I know why they're not doing it because of the money and the picks and the IFA stuff, but if you were to tell me on February 10th Alex Bregman is still sitting there in free agency and the team that needs a third baseman more than anybody else in baseball right now possibly is like, no, we don't want him, that's where I'm just like, are you really going all out to try to get back and win a World Series? I know some people don't like Bregman.
The answer is no, you're not.
Yeah, you're not, because you should have this dude. I know people hate him for obvious reasons, but he makes this team exponentially better. There's my word of the day. Exponentially better with Alex Bregman on this roster. He's a phenomenal defender, and he is still well above league average offensively, and he's still sitting there, and all the teams that we're hearing about that are in on him can't seem to figure out the contract for him. How come the Yankees, who can afford him more than any of those other teams, are not swooping in for the kill? That would be overkill.
By the way, the Cardinals are desperate to trade Arenado.
Right.
They're begging. They're literally on their hands and knees begging to trade him. And the Yankees can't find a fit when they desperately need a third baseman. I don't think he's going to be Josh Donaldson. I think he'll be much better than that. And I wouldn't be necessarily that worried about the lineup if we added a third baseman. I wouldn't be that worried about Goldschmidt and Bellinger. Like they could be fine if they had similar, if not a little bit better years than last year. But you have another third baseman that's quality, like an Arenado or a Bregman, then I wouldn't worry about the lineup that much. But if you take that, if you just leave third base as it is, then there's going to be more pressure on Bregman and so there's going to be more pressure on Goldschmidt and Bellinger because they're the only acquisitions to this offense. And if you look at last year, remember when Soto went down and it was just Judge and Stanton? We struggled. Or how about when Stanton went down and it was just Judge and Soto? We struggled. So what's going to change? Because now you've just taken Soto's bat out the lineup. What's going to really change? And I think people have actually got selective memories, like they've forgotten that existed. Just look at what happened last year. We weren't that good for a long stretch whenever there was an injury. Whenever Stanton missed time, we looked bad. Whenever Soto missed time, we looked bad. So what's going to change? What's going to change? Now that Soto's out the lineup and we brought 2 league average bats in there, what's going to change?
No, they need to bring in. So it all comes down to where Bregman signs. Like Rob said it, I totally agree with him. If by the end of the day or the next time we come on the air, Bregman's a Yankee, and we're all talking a different tone about the offseason, despite the mistakes that have been made. But I can't. I don't want to buy into the whole fact that it was a bust of an offseason. I think the opinions that the Yankees had a really decent, I'm not going to say great, they've had a really decent offseason, addressing issues everywhere except for the lineup and the offense. That has been the only thing that is really holding everything back. And it takes one third baseman that's on the free agent market to change the tone. And everybody but them can see it. They're trying to nickel and dime him when they're sitting, they're walking around with a stack of hundreds. And it just, that's not the way that the Yankees should be conducting business.
And you're right. And FJ brings up a good point. He says, I don't understand Bregman's case. If no team has offered him 6 or 7 year contract, what is he expecting? Apparently he has a 6-year offer in hand. I don't know. What is he looking for, more money? And I think John said blame his agent. Oh, yeah, that's a big part of it, too. Scott Boras is a piece of crap. But I'm just saying that he still hasn't gotten the offer that he wants. Wouldn't this be the perfect time for you to swoop in and be like, well, look, the Red Sox are trying to get him. We can keep him away from Boston and steal him the same way they stole Teixeira. I mean, you're already, like I said, I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. I do think we've had a really good offseason. But one more bat puts it over the top. Because I still think, even with this roster, we are the team to beat in the American League. With Bregman, I don't think anyone can touch us in the AL. Now, that may be overconfidence, but with that rotation, that lineup, that bullpen, that defense, is there a more complete team in the American League if you add Alex Bregman to this lineup today? I'm proposing that to you guys and to the chat. If we added Alex Bregman, is there a more complete team in the American League? I'm not talking about the NL because the Dodgers are another echelon. But
there isn't. You're right. There isn't.
So they're one move short, and that's what we've been saying for 2 fucking months now. It's like they're one move short. We always knew they were going to get a lefty, and I do like the dude they brought in for a non-roster invitee at Sandridge. He throws like 98 miles an hour from the left side, sinker. That's a Matt Blake dream. We talk about it every year. There's one dude that comes out of nowhere, and he turns into a weapon in the spring. I'm hoping that's the guy. We knew we were going to get a lefty. Bullpen's fine, rotation's fine. Lineup is almost complete. They've been a bat short since they got Goldschmidt, and they will not address it. Now, maybe Peraza has a great spring. Maybe Vivas shows out and has a good spring, and he gets the job. But the more they talk about DJ, the more I get the sense that it's his job to lose. And that's where I'm like, my skin crawls. Because it's like, why do you keep trying to force everybody to think this guy still got it? He was so bad last year that we would probably welcome back 2022 Josh Donaldson with open arms. That's how bad DJ was last season. He was a negative WAR player. He hit 200. He barely got on base. He struck out and everything. He can't stay healthy to save his life. But one thing Joel Sherman did say in that podcast you mentioned earlier, Donald, was that the Yankees are still paying him, so they're going to at least see what they have. But even Joel Sherman's like, I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah.
So, they're going to give him a look, but that's asking a lot of a guy like Peraza who you've never given a shot to. Okay, now it's either you prove it or you don't, or you're gone because the Yankees never gave him a fair shake. Cabrera's been a utility guy since they called him up, and that's his strength. He can play everywhere. DJ's cooked, and Vivas, they called him up for 3 games and sat him on the bench. So, yeah, they're Lord of the contract, not production.
Absolutely nailed it there. They're Lord
right,
of the contract, not the production. That's
Spot on.
absolute facts, man. Just look at Josh Donaldson. You look at Aaron Hicks. Aroldis Chapman. You could go through a whole list of the contracts that they're loyal to, rather than the production that they're loyal to. It goes on and on. Joey Gallo. You can go on and on and on. And now DJ is the latest example of it.
I think this is going to be the last year we're going to have. They got to get. I think it's because of those bad contracts we just talked with Donaldson and Hicks, and I think that's why they're kind of penny pinching. They're trying to get through this last year with those guys on the books before they can really go crazy. And I think next year is going to be a better free agent class. So I don't know, but you can't go from the World Series and then go and sit idle.
When have the Yankees gone crazy under Hal Steinbrenner's ownership? Well, when have the Yankees gone spending crazy under Hal Steinbrenner?
The last time they did it didn't work, and that's when they spent on Beltran and Ellsbury and McCann, Tanaka. We're getting. Why are you getting commercial breaks? Because we want YouTube money. That's why you're getting commercial breaks. But no, we can't think about next year's offseason. I know Murakami's coming, and Vlad might be there, and Tucker, and yeah, it's a stacked class. Do any of them play a good third base? Murakami does. He plays third, doesn't play good third base. That's why everyone thinks he's going to play first in the majors. Is Alex Bregman available next year? Maybe, if he takes a 1 year with an option, or a 3 year with an option, or something like that. We need to focus on this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Next year's next year. We'll talk about next year's offseason next year. When the season ends, we'll talk about who the Yankees should go after. The Yankees have a legitimate shot to get back to and maybe even win number 28 this year. And the player that can help them do that is still available to you, and camp's about to open up. That doesn't happen every day. And it doesn't make sense to me why they won't do it. And I know I sound like a broken record because we've been talking about this for 2 fucking months now, but it's puzzling. The Mets, I don't want to compare the Yankees to the Dodgers payroll situation. I feel like the Yankees and Mets are more of a comparable scenario when it comes to finances. The Mets are at like 320 something, and they might even spend more because they still need pitching, and we're about to break camp. So
yeah, they just got Pete Alonso.
Yeah, they got
really
Alonso back.
Yeah, that's finally over.
On a great contract. I completely disagree with Michael Kay. He's completely wrong.
What did he say? It was paying a Lamborghini price for a Nissan or something like that?
Something like that.
More or less. Maserati price for a Nissan.
Okay.
That's one hell of a Nissan. Give me that. Jesus Christ.
The more Michael Kay speaks, the less excited I am for baseball. Like, I really wish there was a way I can just get another broadcast in general.
Right. And now he's just on his own now. So now he can just bloviate nonsense, and we're just going to have to listen to it. So all we're getting is the Hal Steinbrenner fucking PR. Why should they spend any more than they have to? I'll tell you why. See the amount of money that they earned last year? That's why. My God. My Lord. And don't tell me they didn't benefit massively financially from having Soto for a year. They made every use of that. Basketball jersey giveaways, this fucking giveaway, that giveaway, here you go, come to the stadium, every fucking game, sold out, rain or shine, every single game in the playoffs, $3,000 a seat. Fuck off. $3,000 a seat? Well, $3,000 a seat it is then. Right through the playoffs and the World Series. And now they're going a position short. because we're at the 301. Can't go over 301, even though we make 800 mil. Can't go over 300. Give me a break. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. But that's the thing. I don't put any of this offseason on Brian Cashman. Would there have been other moves that I would have preferred? Yeah. But you could still make a case for every single one of the acquisitions. I think Cashman's done a good job. I do. And I will stand by that. Even if it goes wrong, I will still try and not go against that. I think he's had a pretty solid offseason. I like the trades. I like the Bellinger trade. I don't like the amount of money we've taken on Bellinger. That would have been the only thing I would have added a prospect in order to maybe try and see if we could not eat so much money on the Bellinger contract. But apart from that, good trade. Williams trade's great. That trade for that reliever was really good. Got rid of Trevino. Love that. I mean, I think there was a lot of decent trades there. I have no issue with the Max Fried signing. I think Cashman's done fine. I put most of this offseason problems on Hal Steinbrenner because he's got a budget and it's completely fucked us. Now, I'm sure that he had everybody aware that there was a budget to start with, but I think that this budget has fucked us. When you're in February and you're a position short and the best third baseman, one of the best third basemen in baseball is just sitting there begging to be signed, and the Yankees are like, we're good. That's on Hal Steinbrenner. That's not on Brian Cashman.
Well, that was one of my first arguments when the offseason started. You know, when we missed out on Soto, and we were trying to figure out when we had that show with what do we do now? If you were willing to go, they would have had to blow through the budget to keep Soto and still make other improvements. So, not that you say, all right, I have all this extra money to spend, I can go and get this whole super team of other players that are just not Juan Soto. They've only trickled in a couple, solid defensive players. We have a closer, we have, a more solidified rotation. We've gone over that a million times. But it was almost like, that term that they always say, they went to the 1 yard line and sat down. Like they just never took that extra step to just keep running up the score on the rest of the teams in the American League by just really just making this roster so much better. It's our roster, and I'm going to repeat what Rob said. This is probably the team to beat in the American League. We're almost untouchable with Bregman. That just puts us that much further ahead of everybody. And because of a budget, they don't want to win. And that's frustrating. And that, it's on Hal. It's been on Hal. Cashman, we'll criticize him for some moves. But when he's handed a budget and he has to work within that, there's only so much the guy can do. He also has to get, as far as teams to trade with, to free up roster space. We just feel like just because we want to get rid of them, teams are going to come running. They're going to have to want these players in this contracts too. So that's the problem that the Cardinals are having. With Arenado with the contract, we're having the same issue with Stroman.
Arenado's got a no trade clause. He controls where he goes. And he's also got a ton of money deferred that's going to pay him to 2041. So that's why a lot of teams are hesitant to take him. It's a different scenario. Teams don't want Stroman because of that vesting option. And the Yankees also don't want to they probably don't want to eat as much money as they need to get rid of him. Because then it's just if we're going to pay most of his contract, we might as well keep him. Because we're talking about saving $5 million. What's the point? Just keep him. But FJ's got a good point. $300 million budget should not have this many holes and question marks. He's right. He's absolutely right. And Ken, what's up? Good to see you. He says, I'm trying to get Ken's comment up here. The problem with this year's team is that the team is dependent on a lot of bounce-back seasons. The offense is not going to be as high-powered as last year. He's right. He's absolutely right. So one more bat, and you feel a lot better about, even if Goldschmidt matches his numbers from last year, I think Bellinger's going to be better. He's going to benefit from Yankee Stadium more so than a lot of players that we could have added. That lefty swing in that stadium should be a dream for him. Dominguez is going to be Dominguez. We can't put too much on him. Jazz will be fine. Volpe, hopefully, is better. Judge will be Judge. You put one more bat in there, and the question marks start to go down a little bit, because if you get Bregman or even Arenado, there's still firepower in case Stanton goes down. In case Goldschmidt goes down, you have to put Cabrera at first or something like that. Or Bellinger at first, and you can put Grisham in the outfield. Or even if Pereira gets a shot at that point. There are still ways to fill the needs if a player goes down, but you're one bat short. Because if you already have a black hole at the bottom of the order and you lose Stanton, now the order becomes just the same thing as last year, like Donald said. When these players went down, it was a two-man show. And Judge and Soto, they stopped pitching to them. They said, we'll put you guys on base because you know what's going to happen? Rizzo's going to pop out, and then whoever's batting after him is going to ground out, and the threat's over. That's exactly what happened in 2022 when it was Judge having to bat leadoff. Remember that? Because nobody was hitting. We're not going to pitch to him. You want him to hit 60, we're not going to let him. Ball 4. Take your base, hit into a double play, whoever's batting second. That's what they were doing. They did the same thing last year. So you need to fill out this lineup in case you do have the inevitable Stanton injury. It might happen week 1. It might happen in the second month of the season. We don't know, but it will happen. So you need to have a contingency plan. And luckily for the Yankees, it's sitting there. But unfortunately for us, the Yankees are like, nah, we don't want it. It doesn't make sense. Forget about next year. Forget about it. You need to go focus on this year. And the Yankees like to use the term, it's right in front of us. Well, Alex Bregman is right in front of you. Nolan Arenado is right in front of you. And they would be significant upgrades over what we currently have planned for third base, which is a whole lot of bleh. And they don't want to go and get it. And that, to me, as a fan,
got Pete Alonso for 1 year.
They could have.
There was a 2-year and a 1-year option. You could have actually gotten Pete Alonso, guys, right? You're telling me you wouldn't have wanted Pete Alonso for 1 year for $35 million, something like that, to protect Aaron Judge, and you'd have preferred Goldschmidt, who's like 40? I mean, give me a break. Give me a fucking break. But, it was interesting. I did listen to Michael Caine. He did have an interesting point. Now, this is what I thoroughly disagree with, but his point is, once you're at the reason why the Yankees are at 300 and they're missing a third baseman is because of Brian Cashman, right? And okay, you're right, because they haven't allocated the funds correctly. He's right about that. That I completely agree with. But you have one choice. Well, in fact, you've got two choices, right? Here's your choice. You either just give up and go, oh, well, you've misallocated funds, suck it up, that's it. We're going to have to play a position short. Or you go, right, well, I guess we're just going to have to invest in a third baseman then and take the hit for the year. Then we'll reset the luxury tax next year. Those are your two options. And the Yankees are going for the cheap option. Well, fucking suck it up. We're going to play a position short. I don't like that. I don't think that's right. Not every move is going to be successful. And you're kind of just putting it on Brian Cashman, where you could have just gotten a good third baseman and it wouldn't be an issue. So I still put this on Hal Steinbrenner. I don't think there's really much case to be made why they're so hard and fast on this 300. Yeah, in an ideal world, you can win a championship with under a $300 million budget. In an ideal world, yeah, you can. But these teams that win world championships with a cheap budget have excellent analytics, have a phenomenal development system, brilliant management, astute trades, right? You have all that in your back pocket, right? That's how the Dodgers have become this kind of dynasty that they have. It's not just because they're deferred money. They're really good at development, really good at their allocation resource. They're really good at these things. When have we ever said that about the Yankees? When have we ever been like, oh, wow, their development system's phenomenal. Their management's brilliant. Their allocation resources great. Their analytics are fantastic. When have we ever said that about the Yankees? Question.
A while. Maybe the closest that's come to being the truth is maybe in 17, 16 into 17.
Right, it's a long
even
time
that
ago.
left a lot to be desired. Because the only one that's still standing is Judge. So,
He's the only one left.
yeah.
Right.
So,
I mean,
like,
look at how the Braves won a couple of years ago. They didn't spend much, but they have a phenomenal organization.
Well, no, because the Braves did something that a lot of Yankee fans don't like to do, and that's buy out the years when they're younger. You know,
they were smart. Yeah. Because they were still a top 10 payroll that year.
Right.
Like,
They are smart.
Yeah.
but they also locked up. They somehow, like, they're the only team that does this. They extend all of their good players well before they get to the price point where they can't afford them anymore. But the point is, like you mentioned, in a perfect world, you wouldn't have to spend that much. But when your opponent, most likely opponent, is like nearly $400 million, you kind of have to spend to match them. And we're not asking you to go to 370. We're not asking you to go to 350. Alex Bregman was going to take you to like 330, maybe 335 if you give him like a $28 million deal. We're not asking you to go to the Dodgers level here. We never did, especially if we're able to trade Stroman as well. That's going to cancel out some of the money. I don't know why they're not doing it. Like, why can't you be around where the Mets are? And it's like what Jeff Passan said a couple of weeks ago. I understand passing on Bregman in November and December, but when you're doing it in January and February, it doesn't make sense. And he's got a great point. You are the New York freaking Yankees. You're telling me for one more year, you can't be like, all right, let's push the payroll up to where it was, maybe even higher than what it was last year, because we have a really good shot to do exactly what we did last year and maybe even win the whole thing. I don't know if they're enough, if it's enough to beat the Dodgers yet. I think we have a much better, more rounded out roster. You put Bregman in there, there's a very good chance you can take the Dodgers in a 7-game set, but you won't know until you get there. You have a better chance of getting there with Bregman than you do with DJ LeMahieu. And I don't think anyone should argue that. Whether you like Bregman or not, that there's no competition there. I don't like our third base options. I love Peraza as a prospect. The Yankees don't. I like Jordan Vivas. The Yankees got a free option on him this year. They're going to use it. And if it's like with Peraza, it's like he has to be good or else he's gone. And they're going to trade him for a random pitcher like they did with Florial. It's really a two-man job if you think about it, unless Peraza or Vivas give them no choice. It's DJ or it's Cabrera, and they're going to platoon them because Cabrera can hit righties and DJ can somewhat, I guess, hit lefties. Probably not, but that's what they're going to go with. And that bothers me because you're making your bench worse by doing that because Cabrera should be a utility guy, not a platoon guy. He's a guy that can play all over the place. You don't have a backup shortstop if Peraza doesn't make this team. That's where Cabrera comes in. So
I'll tell you what bothers me. The amount of people on X that says, oh, well, just wait 12 months and we're getting Tucker and Murakami next year. And then they're going to be much better than without Soto. Yeah, but what about this year that we're playing? Why do we have to keep looking 12 months ahead? It's not Aaron Judge doesn't have like some serum where he's constantly in his 20s. I mean, the guy's going to get older. That's just what happens. And if you waste the years where he hits 50 home runs, because you're not guaranteed it every year, you waste that. And you waste the last couple of years of Big G, where he's giving you like a 2,000 OPS in the playoffs, and you're wasting that because you're constantly playing with position short. That is on the front office. I'm not interested in next year. I'm interested in next year. I'm not interested in next year this year. I'm interested in this year. Right?
What year are we in now?
I'm not that excited because we keep looking ahead. Oh, well, look, 12 months from now, we're going to get this guy. How many times have I been hearing that? I've been hearing that every year since 2018. Oh, well, next offseason, we're going to get Machado, and we're going to get Bryce Harper. And then we get to that offseason, and we pass on both of them. And then we look ahead, and next offseason, we're going to get Juan Soto, and we're going to extend them, and we're going to be – then we get there, and we don't extend them, and we lose them. And then next year, we're going to get this guy, we're going to get that guy, and then we don't get that guy. Then what happens? So I'm sorry, I don't buy it anymore. You've got this year. You got Aaron Judge in his prime. You got Stan in his prime. You got Garrett Cole in his prime. You got Max Fried in his prime. And you signed a bunch of dudes on 1 years anyway. So are we just going to forget about this year? Come on. I mean,
you're right.
It's so stupid. Yeah, I completely agree. If we do add Tucker next year and we do add Murakami next year, yes, we'll be a better team than if we just signed Soto. I agree with that completely. But stop looking 12 months ahead. We still have a year to play where we can legitimately win the championship if we get a good quality third baseman. And we ain't doing it. And I'm not buying it. And I'm not going to accept it.
Well, that's part of. I was trying to get to that earlier, and just got lost in my own thought. I never got brought the point home about with next year's free agency and trying it back into who gives a shit. We do have to, and I'm not worried about going over the luxury tax, for a little bit, because we do have to compete with, it's. I'd rather them rather than just compete with money just to spend it. I'd rather them at least put players in place that are going to make us a more competitive team. I don't feel like we're going to be, able to go as deep as we are. Exactly, TC. It's always about later. I don't care. It's like we don't have to worry about the Yankees. Don't have to worry about the luxury tax bill till the end of the year. So you go over a little bit to start the season. You figure it out as you go. If you have to pay a little extra at the end of the year on the luxury tax, but you're able to get back to the World Series, then believe me, the ticket sales alone will cover the bill.
Facts.
Think about
say hello to the chat. Get that chat up and say hello to our guys, our loyal fans.
So, TC, as you know, we've just brought up your comment. Good morning, everybody going on. We got Raziel, the great, always dropping the comments. We got Lou. We got Jared. We have Max Coverage TV hanging out with us for a little bit earlier. We also have Dev Finch. Dev, you are very welcome, as Dev was the winner of our first giveaway. We got Egyptian Magician hanging out with us. John the Beagle Dad, as always. We got Jonathan, Ken. We got Mr. Barrows, Stephen B. The usual fam hanging out with us, as always. We appreciate every single one of you. And so if you haven't already, smack that like button. You know how the story goes. But to wrap things up, I want to try to circle back to more of the positive. So, of the players that the Yankees have acquired, if you were only able to get one of them this offseason that really made you feel better about this season, who would be that one player?
Devin Williams, probably, because we needed a closer. You're asking the players we got, right? Like
if we only got one of them to go feel better going into the season.
Yeah, it had to be Devin Williams because we'd have a closer. Because we didn't have one last year. And every ninth inning was like pulling your teeth out. So it's nice to know that we won't have to do that every ninth inning now.
Donald?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said that the best move, I said at the start of the show, the best move was Williams. I stand by that. But then you could make the case to Max Fried because Max Fried is a statement signing. That's someone that you've got for the next 8 years. You've legitimately got one of the best pitchers in baseball. So you could make that argument as well. Either of those two. I don't love our acquisitions offensively, but those two moves on the pitching side, love. Absolute love. I think Williams is great. And I think Fried, I think I might be right that he's statistically had the best ERA in baseball since like 2021. Like dude's been sensational. So we're pretty blessed to have a 1A, 1B of Cole and Fried. And not even discounting the rookie of the year that we had last year. So I like our pitching rotation. So that if you want something that we're optimistic about, it's pitching. But best move, I think, was Williams, hands down.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think the closer was the position to get. I think that was one of those moves where it's like, okay, now we're trending in the right direction. So because we already had we had a good rotation. Yes, Freed makes it more of an unstoppable force, but we needed to move on from Holmes, and I did not want to put the pressure on Weaver, as outstanding as he was in the postseason last year. I did want to get him that support, and Williams definitely gives him that, where he could just do his thing and not have to worry. But before we do sign off, I also do want to just say one more thing, and that is because I haven't been able to talk that on the show in a while. But I do want to send our congratulations to Aaron Judge and his wife Samantha on the birth of their baby. So Judge now has a little daughter. And, just want to say congratulations to them from the
baby.
Fat
Fat bastard and Austin Powers.
So congratulations to them on behalf of us at the Pinstripe Chronicles. So with that, just remember to hit that like button, hit that sub button, share this out with your friends, your family, stream this on the corner. This is where fans become family. So wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.